2002 Chevy Avalanche. We're going to be doing a lot of audio upgrades with this one. Here are the equipment. It's going to be 4 components, front and rear, 6-channel RCA, the splitter for the power and ground, semiconductor for the 9-wire since it's going to be a 4-channel situation, Pioneer radio, dash cam, 4-channel amp, mono amp kit from CT Sounds, 2 15-inch BIOS, nothing too crazy, and we're going to be doing the double DIN setup with this one, so I'm going to show you how that works out. We are still waiting for the sub box that goes in the bed, so once that arrives, I'm going to go ahead and install the sub and mount the box itself from the back. But for now, we're going to go ahead and pretty much prep the radio, get it bypassed for the video, and then this also is getting a alarm remote start from CompuStar, so that's going to be a good one. So stay tuned, and then let's get to it. Before we begin, we're going to go ahead and take apart the dash, get to the radio, and do a couple of tests. Certain ones kind of have to run a accessory fuse for the turn on. So this one we're just going to kind of double check just to make sure it does have the turn on in the actual harness that came with it. We're also going to make sure that there's no factory amplifier. So we're going to go ahead and test the speaker leads. So what we're going to do is plug this in, test it each speaker, and if it does produce any sound from my tone generator, which is one of these, then there is no factory amplifier. So we can go ahead and run the 4-channel outputs directly to the harness. To begin, go ahead and pop the fuse cover. We're going to go ahead and pop this off after we take off 2 7mm right here. And then we're going to go ahead and release the trim itself since we're not going to be needing this anymore. This model year, Avalanches and Chevys only have these clips that you push down on both sides. So just kind of push down on the top piece, and that'll release the lock and just slide it out. Here's basically why I took the radio off before prepping everything. I have it on the accessory lead right now just to see if it turns on when you turn the key. And as you can see, it doesn't have an accessory signal, so we do have to run a fused accessory signal to the ignition harness when we do the remote start, alarm, and the dash cam. So we're going to tap all that together. So just to kind of show you why I always double check everything before even proceeding and prepping the harness. Yep, definitely no power to that. So now we're going to go ahead and test these speakers. If these speakers produce a noise once I hook up my tone generator, then there is no factory amp. It looks like this one does have a factory amp since there is no sound coming out of the tone generator or the speakers itself. Or let me try it one more time. Yes, it does look like it has a factory amp. So like I said, that's another reason why I double check everything. So I'm going to go ahead and look for the factory amp, which I believe is between the center console. But I will double check with my diagram to see where it is. Another test you can do if it does have a factory amp, take the power antenna / amp turn on wire, directly touch it to 12 volt. I don't know if you can hear that tone, but that's the front driver side speaker. So basically it's powering up the factory amp, which makes my tone generator work like it never had one. So now time to look for the factory amp and then take that off. Found the factory amp, which is behind the glove box. So all you gotta do is push this in and it'll release. So you can see it's already bending. Now you're gonna go ahead and unplug the white plug, gray plug that's located down here, and I already tested everything. The front left is brown and tan, or gray and tan actually. The passenger side is dark green, light green. The left rear is a brown and yellow, and the passenger rear is light blue and dark blue. So you don't even really need any of these, so you can just go ahead and tape it up. You can plug it back in if you want, but you don't really need to. But I already, like I said, I already tested everything with the pack tone generator, so everything is pretty much ready. Now we're gonna go ahead and prep the alarm remote start. Whenever you get the CompuStar system, CM900AS, there's gonna be an alarm remote start setup, 3-button. You will need a web link updater. You have to update the CM900 module, and then obviously program the bypass module for the pass lock 2. If you do not have one of these saved up to your computer, you can actually go to a shop, have them, maybe pay them a little 20-30 bucks, and then they'll do it for you. But you also will need a COM Blade TB. This will take care of the transponder. So we're gonna go ahead and pretty much start everything up. By the way, you also will need the USB updater right here. Once it detects the unit, you're gonna go ahead and update the brain module. After it updates, you're gonna go ahead and configure the module to a 2002 Chevy Avalanche to make sure everything is set on that. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. And then it'll do its thing. Once it's completed, we're gonna go ahead and move on to setting up for the Avalanche. Now we're gonna go ahead and configure the module. Go to Chevy. And this will only do the transponder for the remote start. Everything else is hardwired for the door locks, the parking light, factory alarm, disarm, things like that. And this will also give you the guide on where things are, wiring wise, but we don't need that. As you can see, everything is set to go. I know it shows lock and unlock. That's not really gonna do anything, so we're just gonna go ahead and save everything. Flash it. Confirm 2002. Here is the end result for prepping the alarm remote start. As you can see, I have all the wires going to where they need to be. I have it shorter right here because that goes a different location. Here's all the ignition harness and the BCM. Got the drone module, antenna, shock sensor, LED, things like that. So I also went ahead and prepped the radio. We only did the illumination, the remote turn on, the ground accessory, which is going to be ran to a fuse at the ignition harness. Also had the bypass for the video playback and the CarPlay to be unlocked. So we are pretty much ready to get started. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and start off doing the alarm remote start since I already got that thing prepped. I'm not going to really do a guide to guide step by step on this one. I prefer anybody to get this done by a professional. I don't want to be responsible for any damages that you may cause, being that if you haven't done any of them yet. But I already got everything prepped, so I'm going to go ahead and install that first. Just kind of run all the wires. I do have the radio off, so I'm going to run the RCA later on and then kind of tie it on with the harnesses that I'm going to zip tie on other places. And I'm going to go ahead and run the dash cam harness for the power around this area as well. So like I said, everything is going to be tied together. That's kind of why I prep everything. That way I can do 2, 3, 4 things at a time sometimes. So just kind of makes it easier on me. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of these, finish it up. But I will show the rest of the install step by step. That way you can at least think about possibly doing it. But please do that at your own risk. So we're moving on to the radio side of it, and we're also going to do the dash cam at the same time. So I went ahead and prepped the radio harness. Now for this one, you're only going to need the illumination, the ground, and the constant 12 volt. Obviously, I ran a 12 volt accessory. It's going to be to the fuse box or the ignition harness. Now this is the remote wire for the amp, and also it's connected with a DIY bypass, so shout out to them for always making a great product. So, but yeah, I went ahead and test taped it. So we're gonna go ahead and pop the radio in, set everything up, and then we'll do the dash cam. Before we begin, or put the radio in, just went ahead and wired up the RCA along with the remote wire, which are, see if I can pull it up real quick. So the green one is gonna be accessory power for the radio. The brown one is the remote wire that goes to the amp, and obviously the RCA. So I just kind of put a little electrical tape, since it's going to be routed around metal, just for extra precaution. So other than that, this kind of saves you a little bit of time once you get everything in there. Here's the progress so far, as I pretty much kind of placed it in the back of this metal bracket. Don't forget your antenna adapter, RCAs. The USB I did run just right behind. Let me see if I can turn the flash on. It's right behind right there, and it's coming out about in this area, and I zip tied it for now. I'm gonna cut it later. The RCAs and the remote wire, I ran it on top of the cluster. I did have to take it off just to kind of mount it in there. As you can see, there's a zip tie holding it, and then looped around, and it's gonna come out right about in this area, and I'll zip tie it right there. So overall, the radio is pretty much taken care of as far as this portion, so we can go ahead and mount the radio and then hook up all the RCA connections for the amp, sub, and front, left, things like that. That way we can at least mount the radio in its position. I've gotten the front, rear, and the subwoofer outputs for the RCA connected. It'll also be labeled right here. Sub, rear, front. So just kind of correspond to what you have, and then pretty much just plug everything in. You might be wondering why I have the alarm remote start module not mounted yet. It's because I wired up the radio accessory signal to this brown color right here. This is an accessory signal. Also, when I remote start it, the radio is not going to come on, so that's a good thing. That way it's not killing the life of the radio when it's not being used. But yeah, it'll be the brown. Sorry about that. Grab the phone. Brown wire right here. That's an accessory too. So go ahead and tap your accessory signal from the radio to that. And I'm just kind of cleaning up everything, zip tie stuff. I should be able to mount the brain now to its location. And then I'm going to clean up this area, zip tie everything, now that I'm done with it. Here we are so far. Got the radio ready. As I mentioned before, I've got the harness zip tied above, looping around down here. As you can see, I just kind of zip tied some things on the way. I have everything running to the harness below. Now this is just temporary zip tying. I just want to know where everything is going to be. A couple of harnesses here too for the antenna. The only thing that should be coming out in here is the RCA and the remote wire. Now we're going to go ahead and wire up the dash cam. That way we can go ahead and close up this area, because we're going to need power for that one as well. We'll get that and show you what that looks like once it's all done. I basically moved on to the dash cam portion. Go ahead and plug it in for the power and the rear camera. I used a little tester tape to kind of blend it in a little bit and held it with a zip tie. It's temporarily on just like this, because I always turn the dash cam on before I even stick it in. That way I can kind of see the placement and straightness of it. I went and ran it to the right side. When you tuck it in the headliner, make sure you kind of push it in a little bit back. That way it's not pinching between. So far, this is kind of where we are. This is the rear camera harness. So I still need to run that to the back. I went ahead and zip tied it to the harness right here. And this is the power that we're going to be tying in for signal. So I'm going to go ahead and run the rear camera for now all the way to the back. And then once I get to that, I'm going to show you what that looks like. I got everything ran all the way to the back. And this is kind of where I hid all the excess right here. Little cavity. Now for this one, you do need to pop off like a little bit of the lip of it. That way you can insert the wires behind it. I'm going to go ahead and take it back off. Looks like I'm catching something there. So I'm going to pop it back off. It's nothing but clips. But so far this one's pretty much mounted. I already got the camera pretty much ready in there. But yeah, this is the best thing, so you can take off the glass if you need to and not have to worry about the camera and things like that. So I'm going to give it a little bit more slack. That way it has a little bit more way to kind of mount in there. We're going to leave the camera temporarily like this. We still need to figure out how to mount the bracket, but the glass is pretty much put back together, so that one's ready to get mounted later on, but we'll worry about that whenever we have everything powered up. For the dash cam, I grounded it to one of these bolts. The 12-volt source would be the constant, obviously the red or a red-white from the truck's ignition harness. As far as the accessory, you can actually tap it into an orange wire, which is the stick wire right here. That's the accessory signal, so that would make it turn on and off with the vehicle, actually with the key. So pretty much that's the only thing you need for the dash cam. So the dash cam is pretty much somewhat taken care of. We still need to mount the rear one and then stick that front camera in the glass itself. Here's how I mounted the rear camera. I've actually used the L-shaped bracket just to kind of hold it. I had to bring it down like that. That way it'll avoid seeing this, and it actually showed the background. I'm gonna dab a little glue on these screws just to kind of help it not move once everything is in there already. Just a little precautionary thing, so you don't really have to do it, but like I said, it's just my option to do it. This wire I can pretty much just leave it like that, so you won't even really see it. So that's how it's gonna look once it's all finished. With your new dash kit, it does come with new clips. It is kind of hard to take off the factory one, so obviously it's easier to just give you a new one. Once I put everything back in there, I'm gonna dab a little glue just to kind of help it be secure there. Other than that, it is made by Metra DA-3002. I'm gonna go ahead and put everything on and then test fit it, see if it fits the radio. I stayed up last night trying to get this dash kit to kind of fit how it should. I did adjust the radio and all that quite a bit. I pushed it back, lifted it up a little bit from the mounting screws just so it'll fit how I have it now. So you can see the bottom finally actually clears along with the side. I'm gonna leave the plastic in here until I'm ready to pretty much give it to the customer. That way I don't accidentally scratch it and things like that. So I went ahead and ran the power wire. I'm still gonna secure that so it's loose for now. That way I can kind of maneuver everything. RCAs are running to this channel and the remote. The power wire and the remote or the base knob is on the other side, so they're separated. So I still need to run it to the back. This one is pretty much completed. As you can see, I have everything zip tied here, out of sight, out of mind. Everything else is kind of just loose in here temporarily. All of these are going to be cleaned up once I'm fully done with it. But for now, we're going to go ahead and run it to the back and then prep the amps. Progress so far, still running stuff. Make sure you put a couple of electrical tape every so often just to kind of keep everything in the same spot. The RCA is still going to be separated, obviously. And then I ran it behind this panel right here. This is just temporary, all coming out, but they're all going to get situated once I have everything more planned. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and put this panel back. That way everything is going to get secured, and then put this cover as well back. So all of these would stay in place while I ran everything else. I placed all the panels back, or the door seals, the knee bolster, and I did put a zip tie in the harness right here, and in the little locking clip opening right there. and the wire is going over, so it's not really going to go anywhere. You just want to make sure when you do this it doesn't touch anything, which in this case obviously it's not really anywhere close, so I'm content with that location. So I already got the base knob also ready right here. Everything else is zip tied in, so I should start putting everything back and then run more wires. Just to give an update, I haven't really been videoing, just to kind of knock this thing out. Pretty obvious. Power, ground, 12 volt, and I did loop the 12 volt remote wire from here to the other amp. That way both of them will come on at the same time. Did put a test of tape just to kind of hide and blend in the wire a little bit. I did have the recoil distribution block, so all it has the ground in the middle and 2 powers on each side. I still need to add the fuse, but I will wait on that till the last. And just kind of tucking everything in, making everything kind of look neat. This is the 9-wire semiconductor. This is going to go to the 4-channel amp. So obviously all the speakers right here. I ran it to the other side, ran it to the door pan or the door sill just like the power wire, and it should end up at the glove box location. So obviously white, gray are both fronts. Green and purple are both rears. I'm gonna go ahead and put that on. I do need to do some errands, so I'm gonna stop for now, and I will tie up everything when I get back. I'll be grounding the amps to one of these bolts right here. Show you right there. Make sure you sand the paint for the surface, that way it's directly ground to ground and not under paint. I did run the semiconductor 9-wire going to the front, and then it should meet around this area where the factory amp location is, and we're going to be tying it up to the speaker wires that we found previously in the video. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the front door components and the rears. We're going to pop this off. Go ahead and pop this cover off. This little piece right here, there's going to be 1 screw on the very bottom. There's going to be a screw behind this. There's going to be a hidden screw right there, which is a 7mm. And this thing, you just have to push it up. As I mentioned before, pop this off. This one doesn't have the screw in the back like the O3s. So all you have is 1 screw in the bottom, 1 hidden screw right here. And then when you pop the power switch for the window and door locks, it'll be 1 right there. Since this is a component system, go ahead and bend these little tabs for the grill, because we do need to take the grill off to mount the new tweeter in its location. And then we're going to figure out how to take this off, which I believe is a 10mm. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off and then see what we can figure out. For the tweeter, I used the factory bracket. The old tweeter just popped off and I just kind of drilled a hole. That way this thing sits perfectly in it. I did use glue just to kind of make sure it doesn't go anywhere. More than welcome to use glue as well, just to kind of make sure it doesn't move around or pop off or anything like that. I did put a little bit of glue all around here and then where the tweeter is. Alright, I got the mid base pretty much mounted. I'm gonna make sure this does not touch the glass, so I'm gonna zip tie it once I mount it. And you also can tap the tweeter to this. You can use the stock plug, that way you can still unplug it, plug it in like normal if you do need to take the door panel off. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and screw this down, zip tie the connector right here, that way it's out of sight, out of mind, and away from the glass. Then we'll mount the tweeter right here. Alright, I was getting to the plug and I noticed the brown wire for the tweeter is the black wire on the other side. This plug right here, I took it off from the stock tweeter just so I can have a quick disconnect, plug and play type of thing like the OEM. I did do a continuity check. The brown here do correspond with the brown here, so they are tied together. So also make a note which wire is the positive, and then we're gonna go ahead and tie the amp outputs to that same one. I've got everything put back together. As you can see, the tweeter Looks just like it was mounted like the OEM. You can see the Alpine mid bass. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to the rear. I'm not quite sure yet if the rear has a tweeter, but if it does, I'm not gonna go through the video over again for the same exact process. But if it does not have one, I'm gonna show you how that's done. As I suspected, the rear does not have a tweeter, so we're gonna have to drill a hole right around here. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this cover off, and then, like I said, we're gonna be drilling not at the screen, but at the back space right here. Alright, for the rear, this one did have T15 Torx bit screws, so I'm gonna go ahead and take that off. I did already mount the tweeter right underneath. It's all pretty tight in there. So we're gonna go ahead and swap this out and then wire up the tweeter. For this particular setup, I did tie it to the speaker wire. As you can see, the brown is the positive, so make sure you do the no stripe to brown, and then pretty much this one runs behind it. Just like normal, and then this will be outside. I got the rear passenger side done. This is just kind of how I did mine. Tuck in that part right there. Make sure you zip tie the excess for the tweeter wire. We can actually reuse the screws that came out of the old speaker, so that's kind of nice. So we're gonna go ahead and mark this pretty much almost done, and then we're gonna finish off with the front passenger side. Finishing up the front passenger, as you can see, this is what I was talking about in the green right here, showing positive, but on the tweeter the wire is showing ground. But this is the stock plug that I cut out from the stock one, so you kind of have to go by this. So green would be the positive, green would be the positive here. Today's agenda, we have to obviously install the wiring for the 4-channel corresponding to 1, 2, 3, 4 channel, left, right, front, things like that. I'm just gonna leave it loose for now. I'll clean it up later on. I still need to mount the ground right there, and then wire up all these speaker wires at the glove box, put the power to the actual battery, and then that should take care of the amps. And then we're gonna do the sub box and stuff like that. The customer did bring the box that's going to replace the mid gate, so I'm going to go ahead and swap that after everything is working. I went ahead and put the fuse for the amps. For the 4-channel, I did a 50 amp. For the mono block, I put a 150 since it's a 1500. Went ahead and ran the speaker or the sub speaker wire to the back, already tucked in. So basically the amp is pretty much completed. So like I said, I still need to ground it, put the battery terminal, and the whole amp situation is pretty much taken care of. Now that we've finished the amp side of everything, we're gonna go ahead and move on to tying up the speaker wires. Already got everything prepped, so we're gonna have the connectors already joint in with this. And then we're gonna go ahead and use the tone generator once again, just to make sure all the speakers are functioning and getting signal. And then go back to the speaker installation. I always advise to take a picture of the connectors when you do the speaker, that way you can kind of see which one's positive and negative, just for confirmation. Plus it makes it easier when you're tapping everything in here. I pretty much got everything tied up here, got everything zip tied, so we are able to put the things back on, and that part is done. Went ahead and mounted the fuse. We're still going to put the split limb on that. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the battery post. Both of them need to be removed. They are 7 mils. In order for you to get these stock ones out, you do need to cut it a little bit like that. That way we can insert the new battery post terminal. That's kind of the only way to get it out. Generally just kind of cut this rubber anyway. They're problematic anyway for making full contact. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, cut it all the way down right here. So the terminal is the only thing that's going to be showing. Here's what those terminals look like. As you can see, it has an optional bolt. That's where the power wire is going. And we're also going to do a larger power wire right here, go into the battery, and then another ground maybe right here. to the ground just to kind of help it charge up quite well. So that should help out with the system itself. Here's the ground that I was talking about. I already removed it to 10 millimeter. Make sure you sand down the mating surface, that way it's completely grounded. So this is more than plenty for the ground that it needs. You don't have to really go too crazy on it, but like I said, just sand it down and then get your ground mounted. Now we're preparing the sub box to be mounted. We're gonna go ahead and start off by taking this 14 mil. Yep, 14 millimeter nuts right here. And I believe these bigger ones are 16 maybe. I haven't really tried taking it off. I was just kind of trying it with this one, but I believe maybe they're 14 or 16, so I'm gonna try it. We've got the mid gate completely taken out, so we're gonna go ahead and swap it out with the box. On this one, we're gonna do a dab of silicone all around since the seal is kind of getting old, just to kind of help seal everything. The box is rhino lined, so shouldn't be no problem, but I just want to add a little precaution with the caulk. Went ahead and mounted the box. The box is damaged. The customer is going to call the company. It's mostly aesthetics, but it's going to be behind the seat regardless, so hopefully they get that situated. But these subs are dual 2 ohms, so we're going to go ahead and wire up the subs together for the final impedance of 2 ohm. It's going to be this one right here to 2 ohm load. Since the amp is 2 ohm load stable, we're going to do that feature since it's not a 1 ohm subwoofers. Anytime you wire in a sub, you just kind of want to make sure that it is properly ohmed. If not, bad thing go wrong. So you can see it's showing 2.4, 2.3, so we are at 2 ohms. So this one's good to go to get wired up. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the front and mount the bass knob. So for now, we're gonna go ahead and put the seat back. I did add a little bit of silicone, so kind of trying to make sure that thing does its job. He did mention that it's leaking from this area right here, so I might go ahead and put a little bead of silicone around that area and hopefully it seals it. So it is about 12 o'clock in the morning, just kind of messing around with the truck a little bit before I go to bed. Went ahead and upgraded a little bit, just a 4 gauge. Don't really need the 0 gauge for this one, just to kind of help with the electronics. 4 gauge all the way to the battery, and just 1 0 gauge to the block, just to kind of, like I said, just to help out a little bit. Not that it's having any dimming problem, but this would just help a little bit in the long run with that extra load. Just for reference, that's what the box looks like. Like I said, it did have a little damage on that corner, but I painted over it, chipped off the bed liner, so I didn't want it to be just bare wood, so spray painted a little bit. But yeah, it's pretty nifty little box. Obviously it's raised up, so that's a good thing, so it's not going to be touching water whenever it rains. Other than that, yeah, this whole build is pretty much, kind of took a little bit longer than I expected, but definitely a lot of work, a lot of thinking, a lot of redoing is what I have to do. But overall, it wasn't too bad.